And welcome to another Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. This is the show devoted exclusively to St. Mary's University and its athletic programs. Dean Beckman alongside Sports Information Director Donnie Netto. And this week, a little bit later on in the program, our guest will be Pete Watkins. Pete is the head coach for the men's soccer team at St. Mary's. And Donnie will hear more about this year's program, which is off to an excellent start here early in the season.
Yeah, and they're coming off of a huge win against St. John's last Saturday. Got a little time off this week to kind of recuperate and get ready for Saturday. So I know Coach Watkins will tell you how they haven't really taken any time off, but I know that not competing for a week has really come at a perfect time for them.
Well, and speaking of getting off to an excellent start, Donnie, how about the volleyball team for the Cardinals? They are now 13-1 overall on the season, with conference play really starting to heat up now this week. But Mike Lester, the head coach for the Cardinals volleyball team, has to be ecstatic with the play and hopeful, of course, that that will continue now in the conference.
Absolutely. He's very happy with the way last week went. Open conference play with a win over St. Catherine, and then come up with 4 more wins in the Ripon tournament. 3 tournaments, 4-0 in all 3 of them. So he certainly is feeling pretty good about where they're at right now. I know UW Eau Claire, the only team that they've lost to, is receiving votes in the latest ABCA poll. So as we talked last week, you never like a loss, but certainly a loss to a very worthy opponent. Big weekend for everybody again this weekend at Ripon, and one of the things that he's able to do, has been able to do, is really show the depth of this team. And we've talked a lot about the starters and the people that have been really turning a lot of heads, including Brandy Blattner and Maddie Hess and whatnot. But he's getting a lot of opportunity to play a lot of different people, and I think that early in the season, that's only going to help them as the season rolls on, as we really start getting into the crux of the conference schedule, and so getting a lot of experience from some of his younger people, and hopefully that will really pay off as we really get going here in the conference.
In some ways, to just the casual observer, they've made it look kind of easy. So I guess my question for you is, has it been easy, or have they been challenged along the way? And I would imagine Coach Lester, before they get too deep into conference play here, he would like to see them challenged a little bit more, perhaps.
Yeah, no question. And you brought up a good point. And part of it is, when you play in these tournaments, you can pick the tournament that you play in, but you really don't get to pick the opponents that you play in that tournament. I'm sure that there are a few opponents that Coach Lester maybe would like to play different opposition than he did, but you're kind of dealt with the hand that they give you in those tournaments. I know he was very happy to play Nebraska Wesleyan. He likes playing Luther, because those are teams that are in their region, and really, aside from the conference, those are the important matches that they need to have is in-region opponents. And so right now they're sitting 13-1. Most of their play has been against teams in their region. So things are sitting really well for them. They're going to get challenged. Hamlin comes in Wednesday night, and they're 1-0 in the conference, 6-3 overall, and then they get St. Thomas on Saturday. The nice thing about those 2 matches is they're both at home. And obviously Mike loves to play at home. The players love to play at home, and so to have 2 home matches after playing so many matches on the road will be very nice this week.
Right. This will be only their 3rd time really at home. Of course, the Sugarloaf Classic to start off the season, the home tournament. Then they had one other home contest that was a conference game. So they've been on the road most of the season. So out of their 14 games, just a few of them have been at St. Mary's. But as I was looking at the stats, Donnie, this is a very efficient team. Their attack percentage is .209. Their opponent's attack percentage is just .102.
Yeah, I was taught when I started here, one of the things that everybody looks at the kills, everybody looks at the assists, everybody looks at the digs. One of the numbers that they don't look at is the attack percentage. And really, that's the most important stat that you can look at when you're looking at a volleyball program. And I was always taught it's very similar to a batting average. So if you're hitting 300, you're doing very, very well. And for us to be hitting above 200, it does show a lot about how efficient they are becoming. And I think that you also look at the number of games, number of matches that they've won 3-0. That's another thing to show the efficiency. We've been stretched to five sets just once in 14 matches. So they are definitely being efficient. And this is a very talented team. And I think that that starts with the leaders, and that's the seniors. And Morgan Thomas was again for the 3rd straight tournament named to the all-tournament team this weekend at Ripon. So for her and Brandy, Blattner, congratulations on earning all tournament honors again. But, Morgan kind of starts the show and is doing a really good job in the libero position. You got to give Maddie Hess some credit. Maddie had a career day against Alverno last Friday with 30 assists, which is a career high for her. So good to see, again, good to see her do well when she gets the opportunity. And I think that really lets Coach Lester kind of understand that he's got a deep bench. He's got a deep, talented bench. And so if he does need to bring somebody else into the rotation, he certainly has the people that can do that.
And then two other stats I want to throw at you quick from volleyball. Their serving has been excellent. They have 101 ace serves already compared to just 58 for their opponents. And they're blocking at the net, 89 blocks, just 63 for the opponents.
Yeah, just crazy. I mean, that ace number is absolutely phenomenal, and I think it shows a lot of the talent that that they have in the serving, and it's one of those things it is eye popping when you think about it. And one of the things that we haven't talked about, because we've kind of been dwelling on the Ripon tournament, but last week against St. Catherine, a big win in the conference. But what really stood out to me, first set, they're down 24-17, St. Mary's is, and they win 26-24. You think about that, they had to rattle off 9 straight points without making any type of mistake. Any mistake at all, any hit into the net, any hit out of bounds, and they lose that set. Instead, they rattle off 9 straight points and win that set 26-24. It just kind of shows the determination, the talent, and the never give up attitude that this team has.
Yeah, definitely a clutch team. So let's switch now to golf, and we'll start with women's golf. They were at the Jewel in Lake City last weekend, and the D3 Classic hosted by Carleton College, and Caitlin King leads the way again for the Cardinals.
Yeah, it's been fun to talk about her this year. We've this is her 3rd year. She's a junior. The last 2 years, she's been the team leader, but she's been shooting in the 88, 85 type of rounds, and this year she is just lights out. She had a big 80 the first day at the D3, and then turned around and shot a 79 on Sunday for a 159, which is a school record for a 36-hole individual performance. And so congratulations to Caitlin. That's her 3rd and 4th rounds under 80 or under, and last 2 years she didn't have any. So I mean, she's really playing some very good golf, and now she gets a couple weeks to kind of fine-tune her game, as do the rest of the Cardinals, heading into the MIAC championships the first weekend in October. So Caitlin has definitely been the brightest star for the Cardinal women. Give Madison Gately some credit. She's been playing very well. First round 82 last weekend at the D3 Classic, her career best. So those two have kind of been the team leaders the last couple of years, and obviously they're continuing that trend right now.
Yeah, some other golfers like Anna Redding and Michaela Heckendorf, they've been very consistent. So if some of those 2, 3, 4 golfers, if they can start lowering their scores a little bit, you could see a big jump from this women's team.
No question, and that's the key, is they've been consistent, but we need that consistency to be lowered a little bit. Rounds in the mid-90s aren't going to be able to help them climb that conference ladder. If we can get some of those down, as I mentioned, with Madison shooting an 82, proving that she can knock down, the week before she went 88, 88. So if she can knock 6 strokes off, in a week, if everybody can do that, you're certainly going to get into that realm where, yes, they can really make a good push come the conference championships.
And then, Donnie, in men's golf, boy, was Greg Moore happy to have Brett Jackson back. He had been injured, really their leading golfer from a season ago, returning this year, but he wasn't out there until this last tournament and finished very well. Not only was he the top Cardinals golfer, but he finished very strong as far as the whole tournament went.
Yeah, he finished 8th overall, 75-74, so great 2 performances from him. And, the neat thing with the men's golf team right now is, last year we talked a lot about Blake Westerberg and Brett, and they were the ones that were shooting, upper 70s, low 80s type scores. Well, this year we're getting more than just one score in the 70s. And, you mentioned Brett Jackson, and you certainly have to mention Blair Saunders, a freshman who's just has not had a round over 79, had a good weekend again this weekend. So, they're getting good numbers from a lot more people. And I think that they're going to make a jump in the conference this year, but as I said with the women, those numbers, as good as they are for St. Mary's, they've got to be even better if you're going to make any type of move in the conference, because the conference is just that good. They need to, 75 needs to be your high number rather than than your low number.
And you mentioned Blair Sanders, but there's not a lot of difference once you get past him between Kyle Brote and David Eiton and Hunter Rao and Bryce Gillespie. They're all right there, kind of even.
Blair's sitting at about a 75 scoring average, and then you've got those four that you mentioned are all below 79. So yeah, it's a very tight group. But again, those numbers have to continue to be consistent. And if they can do that, if we can get four people, really ideally for Greg, if we can get five people shooting in the 70s all 3 days at the conference championships, they certainly have an opportunity to make some noise, that's for sure.
Right. So we mentioned the 8th place finish at the Midwest Region Classic this past weekend. But if you look at all of the tournaments and invitationals from the start of the season to now, Donnie, they have scored lower and lower each time and really are placing much better with each consecutive meet.
No question. And you look at the last week, they tied the school record for a single day with their second round performance at Benedictine. So they are getting lower. Their scores are getting better, and that's got to continue. They've got a big tournament this weekend at Wisconsin Lutheran, and then they've got a week off before they head to Bunker Hills for the conference championships. And that's kind of what you're pointing for. Is you're looking forward to making sure that your game is in tip-top form heading into those 3 days in early October, because that's what it's really all about.
In a few minutes, we'll be bringing in Pete Watkins, the head coach for the men's soccer team. But Donnie, women's soccer, they're coming off a tough loss to St. Ben's, but they rebounded nicely after that by dominating University of Wisconsin Superior, winning 4-0, but it was tied at halftime. They scored all 4 goals in that second half, so a good, strong finish in that one.
Yeah, no question. I think that the whole team probably was a little bit disappointed in the St. Benedict final outcome with the 4-1 loss, but it was nice to see them rebound the way they did. And I think that does say something about the team and about their ability. You lose a game on Saturday to be able to turn around, drive all the way to Superior, and put your best foot forward and be able to come away with a victory. And the nice thing that we talk all the time, and I'm sure Coach Watkins will be able to agree with this in that they're spreading the offense out, which makes it so much more difficult for teams to guard or to defend one player. And their 5 goals last week for the women were all scored by different people. So that's very good. That means that other people are getting into the mix. Becca Dupe had the goal on Saturday, and then Lafco, Leverage, Loof, and Cottle had the goals on Sunday. So it's good to see that other people are stepping in and being able to help out. And you certainly have to tip your cap to Gabriella Peterson, who's doing a great job in goal. And I know we talked to Coach Cassidy about that last week. Having her there allows them to do some things a little bit differently, and so it's very nice to see them getting a good goaltending from a freshman keeper, and then spreading out the wealth on the offense as well.
Well, and he had talked about the importance of that team defense, which is what they got against Superior, because Peterson only had to make one official save in that one.
And
so
I talked to him on Monday, and it was a very dominating performance. It may have been 0-0 at the half, but the Cardinals controlled the game, controlled both aspects offensively and defensively, just weren't able to break through. Once they did break through with that first goal by Loof, then all of a sudden the floodgates just opened and things seemed to come easy for them.
Yeah, they're in an okay place right now. They're 0-2 in the conference, but 2-3-1 overall, and as that contest against Superior shows, definitely improving. All right, so stay tuned here to the Cardinals Nest. When we come back, we'll bring in Pete Watkins, the head coach for the men's soccer team. That's next here on HBC.
Turn your friends into GigaFriends with HBC and earn up to $50 on each qualifying referral.
Up to $50.
That's right.
More input, please.
When HBC customers refer their friends to sign up for HBC services, they can earn up to $50. If they get 2 friends to sign up for services...
that would be $100.
That's right. Pretty quick with the math there.
Affirmative. We are robots. Math is kind of our thing.
Never would have guessed.
Grab some GigaFriends and start saving today.
Football night on HBC is back.
When it comes to high school football, no one has you covered like HBC.
Join HBC 25 Sports this fall as we travel to local high school football stadiums to bring you our game of the week.
And now it's brought to you in crystal clear HD.
To see the full schedule of games, log on to hbci.com/sports.
Catch all your local high school football action right here on HBC.
Brought to you by Lewiston Auto.
HBC Sports, your home for high school football.
And we are back on the Cardinals Nest. And as promised, we have Pete Watkins, the men's soccer coach for St. Mary's, joining us. I'm Dean Beckman, along with Sports Information Director Donnie Netto. And Pete, thanks once again for being on the Cardinals Nest, now in your 6th year at St. Mary's. So good to have you back on. And, you know, certainly, as we mentioned earlier, you're off to a great start, 4-3 on the season. So just kind of give us your thoughts on how the season has started off here for you.
Yeah, we've been really pleased with our performance against tough teams. So Concordia, Wisconsin, for example, at their place, certainly the win against St. John's the other night. We've been on the road more than we've been home. So whenever you do that, you learn a lot about your team, both on the field and on the bus, and a chance maybe for some team building too. So playing away a lot has been great for us. We're looking forward to a few more home games
Well,
on
I'm
the
glad
stretch.
you brought up that Concordia game too, because, and I've heard this from coaches in all sports before, oftentimes teams play better in losses sometimes than what they do in victories, and that happened to be an overtime defeat, but obviously they played well. And
We did, yeah. We battled back. I think we got the equalizing goal in the 88th minute, which I think that just shows good team character to do that. And then they beat us on a bicycle kick, an overhead kick, probably the best goal I've seen in Division III college soccer. I told the young man after the game I was glad to have a great seat for that. It was a tremendous goal. He'll remember it his whole life, and it also shows our guys how you can take a moment in a game and really kind of step up to the challenge. So we're disappointed to lose, but it was a great match all the way around. Great Division III soccer game.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about last week? Because I know we talked after the Augsburg game. Everybody was very disappointed about the outcome, thought, you know, it should have been a better game than that. But we talked, and then my question to you then was, how do you rebound? How do you put that game behind you and focus on, at that time, it was St. John's. And obviously, you found a way to do it because you guys played phenomenal against the Johnnies.
Well, I think our team did it. You know, I really think our guys came together. They had some important conversations after that match. You know, at Augsburg, I think they deserved the win on the day. I don't think the scoreline necessarily reflected the game. You know, we've lost 5-1 before, and I'd say that was pretty legitimate. That day probably wasn't quite like that for us. We hit the post at 3-1. And just didn't go our way, and you know that's part of the ethos of our sport. But I was really impressed with the guys' response. It was positive. Most importantly, it was constructive. You know, it wasn't just pointing fingers and making excuses. It was, all right, how are we going to get better? We know St. John's and every other team in the MIAC is going to be just as good. So as a group and as a unit, they came together extremely well, and I was proud of them and happy for them on the day at St. John's.
Can you talk a little bit, Coach, about the leadership of this team? Because I know as we talked after that St. John's game, at halftime it was 0-0, a place you had been against St. John's last year, and they came out and scored a bunch of goals to get the win. This year, your seniors kind of took charge and said, hey, that's not going to happen again.
Yeah, if I had to quantify it in one word, it would be proactive. We have proactive leaders on our team. Sean Butcher, James Larson for sure, are doing a fantastic job. Nate Blank, who's actually been injured a little bit, but has been every bit the leader you need, even if he's not on the field. And a lot of guys that I didn't mention, but those three in particular really stepped up in captain's roles and been very proactive with our group, and it's been great to see.
going back to that St. John's game quick, you know, talk about rebounding off of a disappointing loss. They came out right away, scored in the 5th minute, and then held on the rest of the way. So not only did they come out ready to play in that one, but then had great team defense the rest of the game.
Absolutely. I think, you know, it's a tough trip, whether it's Winona to Collegeville or the reverse of that. It's probably the toughest trip in the MIAC because you're not staying in a hotel, but you're on a bus, you know, 3-4 hours, all the dynamics there. So when you are at home, you want to take advantage of that. And we scored a great goal. James Larson, a senior pre-med major for us, right place, right time, and it was fantastic for him to get that. What I liked about the game, though, is we kept playing. You know, it wasn't just, hey, let's get one goal to stand up. We had a lot of chances down the stretch as they did, and it's one of those games that it was a lot of drama for 85 minutes, but those are kind of fun too.
How was it for you as you're standing on the sidelines and the horn sounds to end the game to watch those guys? Because this was a game really kind of almost a statement game for you guys because you had struggled against St. John's 6 straight years that you've lost to them, a huge win. And you could see it in their reaction. Their emotions were definitely evident. How did that make you feel as a coach?
Well, fantastic, in a word. It was great to watch them enjoy the moment, and they earned it. You know, it was a moment that they earned. Beautiful night, almost a full moon out. We celebrated Solomon's Song in that part of our evening as well. It was just a night where everything kind of came together. So, you know, those are things you remember for a long time, and we were proud to see that.
Pete, talk about your goaltending a little bit this year. You have a junior from Byron who's just doing a terrific job in goal.
Nate Levy has stepped up to every challenge we've thrown at him, and I'd say right now he's probably not even 100% in terms of physical, physical health. He's been battling some injuries. His mental toughness is as strong as I've ever seen in any athlete, and I've been doing this a couple of years, so I've been really impressed with him. And we've got Alberto Centeno waiting right there in the wings, who should get a lot of credit for keeping Nate as sharp as he is, because if Nate wasn't available tomorrow, we'd still have a very good MIAC caliber goalkeeper stepping in with Alberto. So it's been great to watch those guys battle. I think when you look at like a sport like football, and if you have two quarterbacks, it makes your team better. We've got two goalkeepers that can play at our level, and Nate's just stood up to the challenge. Certainly the St. John's game was, a kind of a career stamp for him, I think.
I know there are a lot of players that do a lot of things to make this team tick, but the one that really has stood out to me so far this year has been James Larson. He's been on the team for 4 years, but this seems like the year that if you guys play a game, he's out there. What's the difference in James this year?
Well, one is opportunity. He's getting a chance to be out there from the start. Quite frankly, I'd say he defines what Division III athletics should be. He is a pre-med major, 3.8-ish, 9-ish GPA, way up there. He's in lab every day, works his butt off, and he really brings it to the practice field as well. So he's just a tremendous Division III athlete for us. And he's taken advantage of the opportunity. He knows he's earned the players' respect and the coaches' respect. And every day he goes about intentionally showing our program the way that we want to go forward. Now,
take away the score sheet, because those are the people that everybody knows about. Talk a little bit about some of the unsung heroes, the people that maybe people that look at a box score or whatever wouldn't know are really impressing you this year.
Yeah, I'd say the captain of that team, if you will, for us would be Vic Mendoza. He's playing in a defender role that the only time you get noticed statistically is if things go wrong. So he has been, we've asked him to play a couple different positions. He's stepped up to the challenge and done really well. Rob Sobzak, Chris Beiersdorf, Brett Heimerdinger, along with just having great names. They're guys that we really enjoy what they do. And they don't show up in the score sheet. Soccer is so unique that you focus on the goals, but yet 90% of the work is done by other people.
Let's go to the practice field now. Tell us more about Corbin Bowers, a new assistant coach for St. Mary's.
He's a great addition to our community, not just as a coach and certainly helping me out. Interesting story. He's from Columbia originally. His parents are missionaries and are still in Columbia right now. Played at Anderson, which is a very good Division II school in South Carolina, and really brings a little bit of an edge. He's a guy that wants to compete and wants to win, and I really enjoy having that part in our team. He's bilingual. He's great with our players that speak more than one language. He's helping us from a recruiting standpoint in terms of getting out into some populations that we haven't recruited as successfully in the past. So whether it's 9 o'clock in the morning and he's talking to somebody in Ecuador about a player that may come into us, or 9 o'clock at night and debriefing practice, he's a true professional and he's done great things for us. Yeah.
We were also talking right before we went on the air about a few other off-the-field positive things going on with your program, and one of them has to do with academics. And of course, I'm the faculty athletic rep, so that always interests me. So tell us about some of the strengths of the academic side of your men's soccer team.
Yeah, we'll find out, or it'll be announced here in the next couple of weeks. Our team earned the NSCAA, which is our Coaches Association, earned the Team Academic Award, which means our team GPA was above a certain mark, and we were recognized as one of the top 25%, I think, of Division III men's soccer programs. It's the first time, I think, in several years that we've earned that. And it's fantastic because it is the one award that everybody can contribute to. You might be the backup goalkeeper, but your GPA counts as much as the all-conference kid. And so I think that it truly was a team award from last year. We had a big senior class last year, 12 guys that graduated and moved on. And I think it's a testament to them as well that they helped us earn that. But we're really excited to see that. It's a good first step. As Nikki Fenner would say, now it's what's next. How do we get it next year and the year after that and so forth.
And let's go back on the field and let's talk about what's coming up. You've got Bethel on Saturday, and like I had mentioned, you should be well rested. As you mentioned, Nate might be hindered a little bit with some nagging injuries. Some of your other players might be. How important was this week of non-competition heading into Saturday?
About 30 seconds.
Sure. I think for one, we want to get our bodies right, but also our minds right. A lot of our guys are finishing papers and getting ready for tests and those things, so it's a good time for that. Bethel will be well rested also. They don't play a midweek game, so we're on even ground there. But we just battle with them. We've had great games in the past and expect that in the future.
All right, Pete Watkins, the head coach for the men's soccer team. Thanks so much for coming in today. All right, stay tuned. Donnie and I will be right back here on the Cardinals Nest. We'll preview the week ahead in St. Mary's Athletics on HBC.
HBC GigaWorld is fiber optic, which means it's the fastest internet available. With HBC GigaWorld, your internet possibilities are endless. Stream multiple HD movies simultaneously, video chat, browse the web, shop online, share photos, backup files to the cloud, download your favorite musician's new album, all in less than 60 seconds. HBC GigaWorld with more bandwidth and reliability than any other provider. Imagine the possibilities. Visit hbci.com today.
Anything can happen on Thursday. America was born on a Thursday. So was Odell Beckham Jr. and that Pac-Man guy. The Model T was launched, the first text was sent, and Broadway Joe guaranteed an upset. All on a Thursday. Thursday, Thursday, Thursday. Oh, and this happened. On a Thursday. Anything can happen on Thursday. Thursday Night Football. Thursday at 8 on NFL Network.
And welcome back to the Cardinals Nest, and we'll wrap up this edition of the Nest by looking ahead to what's on tap for St. Mary's this week athletically. And Donnie, we have some soccer matches, volleyball matches, all at home coming up this weekend. And,
Yeah, it's a big weekend conference-wise. The volleyball team will take on St. Thomas at 3 o'clock at the St. Mary's Gym on Saturday. That'll be a big match. It always is with St. Thomas. You know, one of the biggest rivals that we may have. Probably everybody has is St. Thomas. But
and we should point out that will also be an HBC TV 25 Extra Point broadcast, so that'll be tape delayed and aired later.
Which is always awesome when we can get them out there. Both soccers are at Bethel this Saturday. The women will play first, and then the men will follow that about 30 minutes after the women's game. And then golf is at Wisconsin Lutheran in Hartford, Wisconsin for the two-day tournament there. And then the golf teams will take a few weeks off and be at MIAC. And everybody else is kind of really rolling into conference action then.
So Dottie, just 30 seconds left here, but loved having Pete Watkins on the program. He's just so articulate and well-spoken, and you can see very passionate about soccer.
No question, and the players love him, and he's done some great things, and I think bringing Corbin on board has been an added bonus for them. It's really been they're a very good pair, and Pete's always great to work with.
So, all right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Cardinals Nest here on HBC. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to tune in again next week for another Cardinals Nest on TV 25.